Welcome back to Joe and Di's Allotment channel. I'm Joe, and Di is always behind the camera.
Hi.
Yeah, what we're going to do today is dehydrate tomatoes into powder. If you're new to our channel, our sort of aim is to advice and tips on how we grow as much of our own food as possible, and also how to store it. I'd like to say thank you to all the people that subscribed recently, and if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button at the bottom and follow our journey through the allotment year in our attempt to grow as much of our own food as we can. Yeah, I mean, tomatoes, nutritionally, very, very good for you. High in sort of vitamins, minerals and antioxidants. There is particularly one called lycopene, which I believe is very, very, very powerful antioxidant. I mean, there are various ways of storing your tomatoes. You could bottle them, you could cook them down and freeze them. So there are various ways, but we find by dehydrating, we reduce it into a concentrated powder, and you know, loads and loads of tomatoes go into filling one jar of tomatoes basically. So yeah, we've got about 3.2 kilograms here, 3.2 kilograms of tomatoes, and that will fill up the whole of the 9-tray dehydrator, and we'll turn that into a powder. Yeah, I mean, it's all so useful once it's powdered. You can reconstitute it with hot water, make it into a puree. You can use it as it is, put it into soups, make tomato soup. You can use it as addition to other sort of dishes as well. So yeah, it's very, very useful. I was just looking at last year. Last year we only got 8 kilograms of tomatoes for the whole year, because I think we had a really serious outbreak of blight last year. We sort of wiped our crop out towards the end of the season. So far this year we've had 11 kilograms already. So yeah, and there's a lot more to come from the vines as well yet. So I think we'll get up to a good level this year. We try and dehydrate as much as we can to last us through the whole year until we get our next crop through. I think we didn't dehydrate any last year because we had so few tomatoes, only 8 kilograms. We didn't really get around to dehydrating much. And I think we were still using the dehydrated tomatoes in the previous year. And I think we only ran out in about March this year. February and March we ran out. So I mean, our aim is to try and dehydrate enough to keep us going for a whole year until the next crop comes on stream. Apparently, I was looking this morning, I don't think we'd ever get to that stage. But once you've dehydrated and powdered it, it can be stored for up to 25 years, which is amazing, as long as you don't open the container. You know, you powdered it really well, you've dried it really well, put it into an airtight jar that's been sterilised, and it will keep for indefinitely, basically. But yeah, but we don't aim to do that. We just aim to try and last a whole year before the next ones come on stream. So we'll try and dry as many as we can this year. And we do dry them sliced as well, which is useful to add to dishes as well, like bolognese and whatever. They rehydrate really well when you're cooking them. And we like the powder as well because it's such concentrated flavour, and it's just a lovely addition to anything really. It gives it a really lot of flavour. So 1 teaspoon contains loads and loads of tomatoes basically. So yeah, it's very good for you. So what we do first is we blend it. We found the best way of actually doing it, rather than slice them and put them on trays, we found the best way to actually do it and dry it so thoroughly, so it powders really well, is to blend it, and then we sort of do 5 little circles on each tray, on each dehydration tray, and let that dry thoroughly. Once it's thoroughly dried, it takes about 10 hours, about 60 degrees Celsius or 145 Fahrenheit, and it's thoroughly dried. We can then put it into a blender again, powder it up, let it cool down completely before we put it into a sterilised jar, and we found out that's the sort of best method of actually doing it for us. So yeah, so all we do is destalk the tomatoes. I cut the first few up just to give it a bit of a start at the bottom, and then I'll just chuck them in and blend them. So just put a few at the bottom to start with. These have been pre-washed, obviously, pre-washed tomatoes. So if we start the first few, and if I blend those just on their own, that gives it a bit of a base to add the other tomatoes to, and it just keeps going after that. So that's liquidised those really well, so I can just keep chucking tomatoes in now. So just put them in whole now, which makes it easy. No slicing, no chopping, just put them in whole, liquidise it and pour it onto the dehydration tray. So 1/4 of a cup for each circle. We found the sort of best way of doing it. So just use the back of a spoon to sort of spread it out, so it's not too thick in the middle then. It helps it dry as well. So that's one tray done, so that can go into dehydrator now. 8 more trays to go. And we use the parchment because it's so wet, otherwise it would just fall through the bottom basically. So yeah, let's get the next one ready. So that's the last tray done. So it's 9 trays. So that'll go into the dehydrator. And we actually used 2.5 kilograms of tomatoes. So they're in. And we've got a little bit of juice left, which we can add to the meal later. So yeah, so put that on for 10 hours and let that dry thoroughly, and we'll come back tomorrow and see the results. So that's been dried now. You know when it's dry enough because it just breaks up into small pieces. So we just break them all up, and then we'll blend it into a powder and see how much powder we've got. So that's all crushed up now. I mean, you could leave it like this really. It makes a lovely tomato crisp as well. Yeah, you could leave it like this, but we like to powder it because it can be rehydrated, as we said earlier, just with some water into like a puree mixture, or you can use it in all sorts of meals. You can use it as pizza base, add it to bologneses, all sorts of things you can do with it once it's powdered. So we'll blend it into a powder. So a full blender's worth. Once it's powdered, so that ends up probably about 1/4, yeah? So it's pretty concentrated really. So yeah, we started with 2.5 kilograms of tomatoes, and taking off the weight of the jar, we've got 250 grams of tomato powder there. So that's reduced it by 1 in 10, yeah? So it's a tenth. That's a tenth of the volume we started with. 2.5 down to 250 grams. And looking on Amazon, a 250 grams of organic tomato powder would cost you about £6. So that's a good day's work, I think. So yeah, so that's very, very concentrated. So I'd say 1 teaspoon must contain quite a large volume of tomatoes really. So very concentrated. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope it's useful to you. As we've said previously, if you haven't got a dehydrator, you can use an oven to do the same sort of thing. Just means you put the oven on the lowest setting, and you leave the door ajar slightly to reduce the heat a bit, and you'll get the same result. But yeah, excellent way of preserving your tomatoes. As we said earlier, this lasts for years and years and years. So although it won't last very long, we'll probably use it by next year. But we will dry some more. We've got quite a lot of tomatoes. We've harvested a lot of tomatoes in the last couple of days again. So we'll do at least another 2 lots, I think. So we'll end up with sort of 750 grams or up to 1 kilogram of tomato powder by the time we're finished. If we do 4 lots, and that will keep us going through the whole of the cycle till we get tomatoes again next year, hopefully. So yeah, very useful way. We don't have to buy puree. We don't have to buy sort of tomatoes to add to various dishes. We can just use our own tomato powder. Thank you for watching. Leave us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video. Leave us a comment at the bottom, or if you'd like to subscribe, please use the button at the bottom and subscribe to our channel. Thanks very much.